Every year, over 2 million tons of pineapples from the Philippines are exported all over the world. You see the bright yellow pineapple pieces in plastic containers. But did you know? Someone had to bend their back under the sun for 10 hours a day so you could have that sweetness? Pineapple, a fruit of the tropics. But behind that juiciness is an incredibly arid chain of events. Have you ever wondered, why is canned pineapple available everywhere, from Tokyo to Toronto, from Paris to Penang? And who truly controls that flow? We won't just talk about fruit, but about something even more sour than unripe pineapple. The trade-offs to keep that sweetness alive. Today, you will step into the rarely seen world behind the pineapple, from fields stretching thousands of hectares to canning lines running day and night. We will explore how pineapples are harvested, processed, and packaged. But deeper than that, how this industry is shaping the lives of tens of thousands of poor laborers. And if you think pineapple export is simply an economic story, stay until the end of the video. Because you will see, some lands have had to sacrifice their habitat, water resources, even human rights, just to maintain that sweetness globally. A journey that begins with a pineapple, but ends with things no one dares to print on the label. The Philippines is the second largest pineapple exporter in the world, after Costa Rica. In 2023 alone, the country produced over 2.9 million tons of pineapples, the majority of which comes from the Mindanao region, where the climate and soil are considered ideal for growing pineapples year-round. But what's worth noting is, over 60% of the production doesn't come from small farmers, but from multinational corporations like Del Monte and Dole, names that control the entire growing region, processing plants, and global distribution network. The pineapple fields here are not small, fragmented plots, but industrial farms spanning thousands of hectares, where land is leased long-term, fertilizers and pesticides are standardized, and workers operate in shifts. It looks very modern, but that is also the beginning of a chain of pressures weighing heavily on land, water, and people. And the question is, how to harvest millions of pineapples each week, while keeping costs low and profits high? The answer lies in the next part, where the dark side of the production process begins to emerge. Harvesting pineapples in the Philippines is not a job for machines, but for sweat, worn-out gloves, and even hands eroded by acid. The pineapple harvesting process in the Philippines begins at 5 a.m., before the sun even rises. Pineapple cutters are usually men, wearing long sleeves, boots, and hard hats, but not because of safety standards, but to protect against sharp thorns in the scorching sun. It sounds like traditional manual labor, but in reality, this is a harsh process with an industrial feel. Pineapple is not an easy plant to harvest. The leaves are as sharp as knives, the body is low to the ground, and every step is a cut to the skin. Workers often bend over for hours, leading to back pain, blistered feet, and stinging eyes from chemicals still clinging to the skin. According to a report by the Fair Food Organization, the majority of pineapple harvesting laborers in regions like Bukidnon and North Cotabato are working under unstable contracts. Some are only paid by output, meaning they have no days off, no insurance, and if it rains, they go hungry. Over 80% of workers in the pineapple industry work under seasonal contracts. This makes them vulnerable to work accidents, harsh weather, and sudden layoffs. Even, many people work without a signed contract, only through cooperatives or subcontractors. That also means no binding responsibility from the purchasing corporations. Is there a better way? Yes. Some countries have implemented mandatory social responsibility index systems, where companies must publicly disclose the percentage of seasonal workers, support levels, and average working hours in their ESG reports. But in the Philippines, that is still a recommendation, not yet law. The question is, how can a billion-dollar export industry leave tens of thousands of workers living in such precarious conditions? To understand that, we must look at the processing chain behind it. Pineapples are transferred immediately after harvesting to avoid spoilage. Within a few hours, hundreds of tons of pineapples are brought into the factory, where the process is almost entirely closed. washing, peeling, slicing, steaming, canning, and labeling. But what's interesting is, not all factories are located in the Philippines. Some frozen pineapple, especially the kind exported to Japan and South Korea, is forwarded to processing centers overseas to optimize tariffs. And while the production line operates with steel and steam, the heaviest work, such as sorting, lifting crates, and clearing defective pineapples, is still done by humans. Some factory workers report they stand for 10 to 12 hours a day, sometimes with no breaks in between shifts if the number of orders piles up urgently. An organization once published a report on the risk of forced labor in the Philippine pineapple supply chain, especially in monoculture areas controlled by large corporations. Although no specific names were mentioned, production models with trust-based contracts, where locals work as laborers for the factory, are suspected of exploitation through non-transparent terms. Even according to a local survey, up to 70% of laborers do not receive regular health checks. Some suffer from respiratory problems and dermatitis due to contact with plant protection chemicals, but do not qualify to claim compensation. And do you know what the biggest paradox here is? Some farmers who once owned land have now become pineapple cutters on their own former land, because the land has been leased back to corporations under 25 to 50-year contracts. They grow pineapples but are not allowed to eat them. They produce the product but have never tasted a slice of exported canned pineapple. If a pineapple you buy costs $2 or even $4, but the harvester only receives 2 cents for the entire day, does that seem reasonable to you? Imagine, you work in the fields for 10 hours a day, no insurance, no contract, not knowing if you'll have work tomorrow, but still have to smile when interviewed that you are satisfied with your job. And the strange thing is, every slice of pineapple canned at the Del Monte or Dole factory must undergo at least 4 quality checks. But the lives of the growers, no one checks. The quality of the fruit is quantified by scanners, while the quality of life of the workers is left to the weather, chemicals, and seasonal work. At this point, the question arises, if the very people who make the product do not have sufficient living conditions from it, then where does that sweetness truly come from? But that's just within the country. When the pineapple leaves the borders of the Philippines, it carries not only sweetness, but also consequences that are pushed out of the sight of consumers. Every year, the Philippines exports over 600,000 tons of pineapples, mainly to Japan, China, South Korea, the Middle East, and the US. Some in the form of fresh fruit, the rest as juice, frozen pineapple, and canned pineapple. Those countries receive golden fruit, while the land of origin becomes increasingly arid. You see it in the supermarket, with labels like 100% tropical, fresh from the farm, sun-ripened sweetness. But no one tells you that. To achieve that consistent sweetness, many hectares of primary forest have been cleared for monoculture. According to the Global Forest Watch organization, in less than 20 years, the Bukidnon region, where many pineapple farms are concentrated, has lost nearly 11% of its forest cover due to agricultural expansion. And the consequences are not just the loss of green trees, but the loss of ecosystems, soil erosion, and water pollution due to nitrate fertilizer runoff. The rivers around the pineapple growing areas that once provided domestic water have become cloudy and are considered no longer safe to drink. Here are the English translations of each paragraph. A paradox. While Philippine pineapples are luxuriously packaged in Tokyo or Los Angeles, children around the growing regions have to travel kilometers to get clean water. The pineapple industry operates like a machine. But who is overseeing it? Environmental reports are often commissioned by the very businesses being audited. And this is the problem. When the influencer is also the report writer, will anyone dare to record unfavorable numbers truthfully? So why do some countries still favor Philippine pineapple? The answer lies in the cost factor and the obscurity in traceability. Multinational corporations own the entire supply chain, from farm to canning, from brand to distribution system. This helps them control prices and stabilize quality, but also makes it almost impossible for consumers to know where the pineapple they eat comes from, how it was grown, and who harvested it. What about the local authorities? Pineapple brings jobs and revenue, but it also means they have to trade off the environment and community benefits. Some internal reports admit land lease contracts for foreign companies sometimes last up to 50 years, with symbolic fees. And have you ever thought about this? In some countries, there are mandatory regulations on the traceability of meat, fish, coffee. But for pineapple, no one asks, no one checks. How many hands, how many lands, how many losses does that sweetness pass through before reaching your silver spoon? And that is the truth that no juice company puts on the label. There is a solution being tested in some South American countries, creating an independent environmental monitoring system, funded by the state or international organizations to ensure transparency. Can the Philippines learn and apply this model? Or will it continue to let self-written, self-checked reports exist as a form of pseudo-transparency? While a pineapple is printed with a QR code to trace its origin, the groundwater used for irrigation, no one checks. The forests that are cut down are also not in the Sustainable Development Report. And finally, the question remains, do consumers know that each can of pineapple they open might carry unspoken tears? Pineapple may be a source of vitamin C, a healthy snack, but if to produce it, laborers have to bend their backs for 10 hours a day, the land loses its ability to regenerate, and rainforests are wiped out, then is that still a price worth paying? Have you ever stopped before a pineapple in the supermarket and asked yourself, who planted it, who cut it, who packaged it, and how much were they paid for the sweetness that you only spend a few dollars to own? We cannot change the supply chain in a day, but we can start by asking questions and choosing more responsibly, because sometimes what makes a product worth buying isn't the flavor, but the truth behind it. And if you think the pineapple industry is an exception, wait until you discover what's happening in Argentina, where millions of lemons are harvested not to be eaten, but to be used as raw materials for an entire industry of sourness. An industry that seems agricultural, but operates like a chemical factory. From dish soap to pesticides, from artificial lemon scent to the citric acid you consume every day. Do you really know where that lemon comes from and how it's made? Don't miss the next episode, where we dissect an industry that is not sweet, not gentle, but sour to the heart.